Hi, welcome to the Joe and Mel Show. I'm Joe.
I'm Melissa.
And this is a podcast where we discuss life, marriage, and parenting from a Christian perspective. And today is our special Mother's Day episode. Because it's our first Mother's Day doing a podcast, I guess it's our first annual Mother's Day
podcast.
Yeah, it makes sense. We have some special guests in front of us. We have my mom, Sheryl Wolf, and Melissa's mom, Pastor Joan Olson. And so we are excited. We're going to ask them a bunch of questions about parenting, about being a mother, being a grandmother, and all sorts of great things. You're just going to learn so much wisdom from them. We really couldn't have picked better people
for real
to be on our Mother's Day.
Two best moms
and
here.
They just happen to be related to us. So before we introduce them, before we give them a chance to talk, I just want to start with a quote. This comes from an article that Lynette Hagen wrote in their periodical that they released through Rhema. And she says this about mothers. She says, God created women with special traits for the most strenuous and honorable task of motherhood. No job on earth takes more physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual strength than being a good mom. Moms have a powerful influence over their children. The home is the greatest theological seminary in the world. It's where children get their basic training about God. Many times children learn about who God is more from what they observe in the home than what is said to them. Your actions speak louder than words ever will. Therefore, it's important for moms and dads to always be conscious of attitudes, values, and deeds they display in the home. Children learn by example, and being a proper example to your children is what a true Christian home is all about. So I thought that was fitting for today, Mel, and I really want to emphasize to our listeners that these are two women who have raised a lot of kids together. They have grandchildren. They've been through parenting as Christian moms, and they have some wisdom to share with us today.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned a lot from both of them over the years.
Yeah. So again, thank you for being with us. Melissa, why don't you start off with some questions and let them share some wisdom with us.
Okay, first question. What do you feel like you did well as a parent, and what worked well for you in your home? This is a time to just brag a little bit about maybe some things you did.
You want to start?
All right. Well, I'm Melissa's mom, and we have 6 children. And over the years, I felt something we did right is doing our very best to keep the things of God first place, because children's lives can become so full of extracurricular activities, and they get busy and want to go here and go there, but we always kept the things of God first place. If something interfered, say with a youth event or with a church service, the things of God came first. So I guess I feel that's one thing we were strong in, and I feel it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I concur. And she's saying exactly right. That was the priority. And now, that's transferred to us, and that's something that we practice.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Great. What about you, Mom?
Yes. I felt like that I put, church a priority in our home. I have 3 sons, and we also did homeschool. So I guess it says one thing you feel you did well as a parent. Teaching them to read, I think I did a pretty good job of that. And so
that's true. I am an English teacher.
That was something that I think that, that I felt like it was important. And just learning to have church a priority, and also learning a priority, just the love of learning. And, another thing is trying my best to keep everything on a schedule, so they could, just kind of know, kind of grow in that and know what to expect. But it wasn't always perfect, but, we tried. And,
there's no perfect home. Mm-hmm. Was part of the question what worked well?
Yeah. What do you think worked well?
For our family, we did our devotions in the morning.
I remember that.
You remember that? Before school, the kids would be eating breakfast while I would be reading the devotionals, whether they looked awake or not. But it worked best because being in the ministry, there was many times we were doing other things in the evening. And as the kids became teenagers, they had a lot of other activities. So for us, having those morning devotions together as we had breakfast, and then Do you remember what we did in the car on the way?
Yes, the student confession on the way to school.
We'd do a Bible confession that was geared toward being a good student, and they would say it with much enthusiasm all the way to school.
Yeah.
I'll add to that too, was learning about prayer and confession, later on. I didn't probably do it as much when my kids were little, but when we moved here and you and Pastor Dan, were our pastors, and I got a revelation of confession of the word and how important that was. Mm-hmm. And so there was one year we got this confession for mothers. Mm-hmm. I'm holding it in my hand here.
Yeah.
and so I committed to pray this every day, and it's just full of what you want for your kids. I know Karen Jensen's really good about saying, what do you want? What do you want God to do for you? And so it goes through here, and it tells you, I want, my children to hit the target in their life, and
that's good.
Train them up in the way they should go. When they're old, they will not depart from it. So I would say that's something that after I learned how to do it, I felt like that's worked well in my home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, you, Mom, you homeschooled me and my brothers, and Pastor Joan, you sent your kids. You did a variety of things. I think you sent your kids
mostly to Christian education. There was just a couple of years when we first moved to Missouri that they were in a public.
So I'd like to hear maybe from both of you, what were your driving motivations to send your kids to private school or to keep your kids at home and homeschool? And I'm like, what were you hoping to get out of that, or why did you choose that route of education for your children?
Well, without a doubt, we felt like we were putting them since they were going to a Christian school, in an environment where their faith could grow and they could be strong, because obviously we knew they were going to go out into the world with careers and getting to know other people, but we wanted their faith strong, and we wanted them protected, and we wanted them around other Christian kids, because for kids, friends are so important. Mm-hmm. So being in a Christian school, we knew obviously not all kids are perfect. No kids are perfect. Right. But it was a little bit more of a protected environment where they could become strong Christians.
Good. Mm-hmm. What about you, Mom?
When I decided that we wanted to homeschool, there was, I lived in Nebraska at that time, and there was quite a few people I knew that were homeschooling, and so I'd had some mentors, and they'd all had a positive experience with it, and there was just so much variety of curriculum and different ways you can homeschool, that it just seemed like an endless way to learn. I mean, you could just continually learn, and so. There was a homeschool group you could get together with, so there was, besides church, there was other kids you could socialize with and do that. So I think it worked pretty well for us. So I'm glad I made that decision.
Yeah. And I think as the years have progressed, there's more that is possibly being taught in a public school system that I really don't want taught. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't want my children to be taught.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Both of you would probably make the same decision if you're raising kids nowadays to private or homeschool.
Because it'd be even more of a surety in the day we live.
Right.
And I was just going to add too that, at the time, I think I shared this with Joe, was that, like the early or the 80s and 90s and stuff, and when I wanted to have kids, I always knew in my heart I wanted to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom, and that was kind of odd at that time. A lot of people weren't doing that, and so people were like, oh, you stay at home, that's that's kind of weird. So it was kind of I don't know, kind of an answer to that.
Gave you purpose for staying home, maybe gave you, do you think maybe it was a reason why God put that desire in your heart, like he was already molding you to be that good mom that would stay home? Because some moms don't want to stay home with their kids.
Right.
You know,
And that's perfectly fine. You know, it wasn't that I was trying to, make a point, but just, hey, I was, it was legal and we could do it.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't struggle financially at all.
Yeah.
So I believe it was the Lord. Yes.
Good. Well, obviously, we're your favorite children, respectively. But maybe there was some other obstacles you had with some of your other children, without naming names, that you want to speak to. But think about it. What are some obstacles that you've had to overcome as a mother, and how did you get through those? So if you want to each share one that you feel like you had victory in, or something that you struggled with for a while and you found a solution, just what was it like? What sort of struggles did you have, and how did you overcome those?
Well, when your kids go through things as an adult, really what you can do is pray. Mm-hmm. You can pray, because when you have a little child, you can make them do what they're supposed to do.
Right.
But your adult children, you need to pray, believe God, confess the word, and something we totally are sure on is that you never give up on your kids, no matter how bad it would ever look. You don't give up. You don't say, oh, that's not my child anymore. No, you continue to love, you continue to pray, you continue to stand in faith, and you just never, ever give up, because God doesn't give up on us.
No.
And I'm grateful for that. And even just, going back to education, it was a huge commitment. We did the Christian school, the tuition in a private school it was at least 3 at a time in a private school. And that was an obstacle. But again, when you're supposed to do something, just as you, Sheryl, you knew you're supposed to homeschool, and God gave you the grace to do it. We knew we were supposed to send our kids to a Christian school, and if we had figured it out on paper, it probably wouldn't have worked.
Wouldn't have added up.
But we knew it was the right thing, God always came through.
That's good.
What about you, Mom?
I would say an obstacle, and the only thing I could think of would be that I think I was a little overprotective in some areas, and just I wasn't really resting in the Lord concerning kind of issues that might come up, know, and I don't remember any serious, problems, but I'm sure there was some, but just kind of like what you said, Pastor Joan, about just praying and not giving up, and continue confessing the word, and
you see them. You don't see their mistake. If you're believing God, you can call them, well, you're a virtuous woman of God, or you're a mighty man of God, even if it didn't look like it, because you're believing that God's going to work in that young adult's life.
It's really good. It's like you were both holding on to the promise. Like, as long as I train up a child in the way he should go, that he or she will not depart from it. You just held fast to that truth. So that's really good. All right, next question. What does every mom need to hear? What's something that maybe you thought, man, I wish someone would just tell me this, during the trenches of toddlerhood or whatever, or even just with your adult children. I don't know. Like, what is something you wish someone would have said? When
the kids are little, you need to hear you're doing a good job, because you're just doing all you can, to raise those children. And you need to hear you're doing a good job, because I think we're hard on ourselves as a mom. I think every mom is hard on themselves. So they need to hear you're doing a good job. What else they could really enjoy hearing is the words, what can I do to help? And maybe that's as your moms get older. What can I do to help? Moms would probably like that. And maybe the 2 words, thank you.
Melissa likes hearing that from all of us in the house.
It is nice to hear.
I wrote down that, I think, you need to know that you're unique. You know, every mother, every parenting is unique, and not to compare your parenting skills to someone else. You know, that, like
That's
you said,
good.
you know, if you, and you know, if you feel like you need help, don't hesitate to reach out and ask others for advice, or search, you know, for parenting resources. So there's a ton of them out there that, you know, we could recommend. And but that's, I would say, don't hesitate to reach out and ask, and just understand that God made you and your children unique just for you. And so, and
That's good.
That's really good. Yeah, I
that's
think
really
you're
good.
right. Moms are, in my, I'm the only not mom here, so I feel like I'm in the minority. But from my perspective, moms are harder on themselves. And Melissa will come home and she has these deep conversations with other moms, and they're struggling with things, and they're sharing their victories and their their failures. They're just, they're like a band of brothers in the trenches, cheering each other on. And I'm thinking, like, man, I never get around dads. We never talk about what's going on in our parenting life. We might spit something out here or there, or, I try to be an encouragement. I don't know if I am an encouragement, though. Like I said, people aren't looking for it, but moms are really hard on themselves. And I think it's so cool when Melissa comes home, she says, oh, I had this great conversation with another mom, and we were able to bounce ideas off of one another, or she really encouraged me. And we don't know. I think we sometimes look at social media and we think everyone else is doing a better job than me.
Yes.
And I'm a failure because I'm not creating these Instagram moments like this other mom is. And it's unfortunate because that's the best of the best. People put their best image out there and hide the trash that's in the corner of the room, right? They get the best
True.
pictures they can and then ignore the mess on the kitchen because they don't want to take pictures of that. And so I think that's really great. They need to know that they are not they should not compare themselves to others, because they're not other people. They're not other moms. God called them to raise those children. God anointed them to bring life to that home. And that's so good. So coming back to me being a dad, what are some things that fathers can do that would be a blessing to the mothers and really best support the family and the children in the home? Like, what did you're both moms now. I keep thinking like you were moms. You still
You're
are.
still moms.
You're in the grandmother phase as well. You added to that. You didn't replace it. But what were some things that your husbands did that really helped you and made you feel supported and encouraged at home?
Well, my husband always helped around the house. And if there were times, I know when my parents were alive, and when there were times I needed to go be with them, he would just step in and care for the kids. So I know something you girls, my daughters always say, if we happen to say, are the guys babysitting the kids, they correct us. And they say, no, they're watching their children.
Right.
That's true.
And just that help. If you've got children in the house, that help. Giving the moms just a little break. Letting the mom fulfill what God's called her to do. Not just putting her in this mom box, but letting her serve God and use her God-given abilities. And I know guys aren't always the most in tune to emotions, but let's face it, moms are more emotional. So if guys can ask the Lord to help them be more in tune, because sometimes maybe that mom isn't saying anything, but she really could use that extra support or just a little break. So I think that's one thing the guys can do. And I know my husband was good at that.
Yeah, that's good. I just said, that the mom and dad should be in agreement with like any decision made.
Yes.
Concerning the children. The father should, help with the discipline, and on the other hand, they should, play with the kids and teach them how to do things. We had the boys, and so, Warren taught them how to mow the lawn and, just like life skill kind of things. And, just kind of be there for them and be their buddy and as well.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the things that Dad taught me as a child. I remember going to places and knowing how to do things because my dad taught me, and that always made me feel like I came out of the home prepared and knowing some things rather than just having figured out my own. So I really was appreciative of that.
Man, I saw Dad always helping you around the house, and so
He still does.
Yeah, he still does. You know, and it just kind of normalized in my child, like as a child, like, you know, mom and dad are a team, and it's not just mom that does everything. Dad helps too.
That's
so, you know,
why she expects you.
Yeah, so like going into marriage, you know, I just expected that. I'm like, well, he's going to do everything that my dad did.
Yeah,
you know?
He left me some big shoes to fill. Thanks, Pastor Dave.
So, you know, it's just I mean, really, you're modeling in the marriage relationship. You're modeling for your children what to expect and what they maybe want in a spouse in the future. So, yeah, I was big shoes to fill. You fill them well, though. You do.
Yeah, I have a great father-in-law and a great father. I learned so much from both of them. I'm really blessed, and not everyone can say that. You know, I have two really great father role models, but it's not Father's Day. Let's get back to moms.
Okay.
What's the next question, Mel?
Get to moms. Okay, switching a little bit from mom to grandmother, Nana and Gigi. How do you view your role as a grandma? And what goals do you have as a grandma? Like, what's some wisdom you could share with maybe a mom that's transitioning to a grandmother as well, like adding that role into her life?
All right. Well, I think how I see my role as a grandma is to be a source of love. I mean, I love my grandchildren. I love it when they come and they can't wait to give me a hug. And I realize that my role as a grandmother is also to pray for them. Mm-hmm. Just as we pray for our kids, all adult kids now at night, we also pray for all of the grandchildren. So we do that. And just as when you're raising children, you want to be that godly example. You want it to be okay that they grow up and be like you. And the same with being a grandparent. I mean, they should be able to see us as a godly role model, something that they can certainly attain, and to always be that source of love, because the Bible says love never fails, and I believe it.
Yeah. I always heard, you know, people say, oh, this person, you know, this happened because he had a praying grandma, you know, and so I'm kind of wanting to be that praying grandma, you know, that maybe, you know, that's, you know, kind of my lot in life right now. But just to kind of piggyback on what you were saying, you know, just I believe that, you know, my role is to be a spiritual support, you know, help nurture them in the ways of the Lord, also helping out when needed with, you know, the physical things, or but I guess I see it more as a time when I can play more with the kids and less discipline and less being responsible for disciplining them. I think that's a trip that's good. And you said, what advice would you give or for transitioning into grandmas? I say enjoy the ride. It says, you know, you will love being a grandparent. I do. Mm-hmm. You know, I love it. I think it's just as great as being a mom, you know, for the first time. So,
yeah. And I think the advice I would give someone becoming a grandmother is to realize you are still a mom. You don't lose that mother-daughter or mother-son relationship just because you become a grandma. And another thing I think people need to remember, that when they become a grandmother, they aren't the mom of those children. Because now my grandchildren range from almost 26 to newborn. And I remember when the older ones came into the world, thinking it was almost hard because I couldn't raise them the way I wanted to. You know, and every family has different dynamics. And it took a little transition to realize, okay, step back and just be the grandma.
That's good advice.
And that really can be difficult for people when they first become grandparents, because they want it done the way they would do it.
Well, and you learned a lot. I mean, by the time your first grandchild comes into the picture, you've been parenting for 18, 20, 25, 26 years. You've learned a lot. And so it's probably, I know what it's like when you know how to do something well and you see someone struggling, like my kids, they it's hard to not jump in and say, hey, just let me do it for you. But you're right. You got to let them grow. You got to let them be unique. As Mom was saying earlier, like that mom is different than you. You know, whether you are similar or dissimilar, you have to respect who God made that parent to be. So I could see that being I never thought about that, but that would be a difficult task to hold back on.
Yeah, because obviously everyone does things differently. And you just have to remember, you're not the mom, you're not the dad, you're the grandparent. And it is a wonderful position to be in. But it'll help you to get rid of a lot of stress. If you realize you are not responsible for those children, you are responsible to love them and pray for them, but they are, your children's responsibility.
I think that's great. No, that they're not my responsibility.
That's really good. Okay. What are, wait, I think we had a double question here.
Yeah, a little bit. Let's talk about just being appreciated. It's Mother's Day this Sunday for us. We're recording this a few days before Mother's Day. But what are some ways that listeners, maybe who aren't mothers, could honor and respect their moms or their wives who are moms as well? Like, what are some practical things that everybody can do to honor and respect their mothers, and also different seasons of life as well? I know Pastor Joan and Mom, both of your moms have passed on to heaven, so you don't have a mom to reach out to now, but, and I mean, in the biological sense, but how can everyone really help and, minister to moms this weekend?
Well, it's hard when you just say this weekend. On Mother's Day, I guess we all expect cards, flowers,
gifts.
Things. Yeah.
A lunch.
Lunch. Don't have to cook. But I think if people can be aware to appreciate not just their moms, but their parents, and to express gratitude, not just for a big thing, not just for the birthday present, but just for the little things. I know husbands can express gratitude. I know your dad, Dan, whenever I do the laundry, he never fails to say, "Thank you. I'm so thankful that you do my laundry." And that's just a little thing. And I like to do laundry. It's not something I dislike doing. But even to this day, that blesses my heart when I hear that. Oh, thanks for doing my laundry. So to express gratitude, and in different seasons of life, you might see your moms go through health issues or different things. Be discerning of that. Be discerning of their need and see if there's something you can step in to help. And never be jealous when your moms place a priority on marriage, because we always did that. We always had date nights, and I don't think our kids ever were neglected because of that.
No.
But to see a strong marriage. So I don't know. What can they do to appreciate us, Sheryl?
I just put, help do things around the house. Not just on Mother's Day, but anytime, and do it with a good attitude, and be willing to learn.
Sometimes doing something to help means more than a present. you know, because, you know, it took that
I can relate to
person's
that now.
time to do it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's giving of yourself to your parents.
That's good. Mel, you're a mom too. What are some things that you're in a different season, of course, than our moms are, as being a mother of young children right now. But what are some ways that you feel appreciated around the house, or you feel like you're being validated as a mother?
Well, I would say when you or the kids say thank you for different things that I do, sometimes Naomi will say, "Oh, thank you, Mom. You're the best mom." And that, you know, I hold on to that, you know,
Yeah.
I cling to that super tight and try to remember that really well. So I love hearing that, but I think sometimes my favorite thing is when you'll come home and you'll just say, "Hey, do you want to have 5 or 10 minutes of just your own time?" You know, like you'll take the kids outside and I get to stay in and do something like listen to a podcast or take a shower or something. Yeah. I don't know. That's like for me right now in this season, it's super appreciative. Or,
yeah, as a toddler mom, you're probably done touching people and talking to people.
Yeah, I'm a little touched out at the end of the day.
Space,
yeah,
and some quiet.
Yeah,
just
to collect.
time.
Yeah, just to collect my thoughts, and even if it's just to pray. But that, you know, I appreciate just those small things. I think I've gotten less like materialistic, and I just remember you, Mom, telling me, like, you know, the gifts are nice, but I like when my kids are spending time with me or they're showing appreciation and gratitude. And I just never really understood that. I'm like, well, of course you want gifts. I mean, of course you do. But it's just, I think hearing those words and just kind of showing it with your time and your love, I think that means a lot more to me now than it did before.
The words thank you don't cost you anything. But to express gratitude, whether it's to our spouse or even to our children when they do things, and of course hearing that from our children, it's very fulfilling.
Yes, it is.
Good. Well, let's end Mel on just sharing some different things that we've learned from our moms. Okay?
Okay.
I'll go first, so you have time to think.
All right.
We didn't plan this. But one thing that I'm really appreciative for my mom is for the great years she spent at home with us. I mean, I never questioned that she loved us. I never questioned that she cared for us. And another thing she did was she took us to church and she showed us, my brothers and I, what it means to serve God on a consistent basis. My dad too, but we're talking about moms today. So mom is, as long as I can remember, I think she was born playing piano at church. In my mind, I was born and she had always been playing piano at church. She played at our old church when we lived in Nebraska. We moved here and she started playing on the church band shortly after moving here and becoming part of this church. And I remember just that being normal. And it was never weird to serve God. It was never weird to go to church an extra day of the week just to practice. And now I look at my life and I'm going to church and I'm playing in the band and I'm learning all these instruments that I heard mom playing, or I heard, I watched from the seats during music practice. And it was just so natural for me to do that. And I think if more families had that mentality of we're just going to go to church and we're going to serve, we're going to use whatever gift we have, churches would not lack in volunteers. They would not lack in talented volunteers to step up and do things. And so I'm so appreciative just for mom's heart to serve the local church. And it wasn't just music. I mean, she was involved in all sorts of things. Mom and dad did youth work at our old church. They did children's work at different times. They volunteered for childcare. Mom still works with you, Melissa, and Bus Kids. And, she's training, she's watching these children so other workers with young kids can serve God.
And she taught drama for a while for our
She was a drama director for...
She still works in nursery.
And she still works in nursery. She's doing all sorts of things for the Lord. And I think that's a legacy that I want to continue in our family. And I'm so happy that my kids get to be around her as well and spend time with her at her home. She said she likes being a grandma a lot, so I think we might drop them off more. Actually, I'm listening to this. I'll replay this for you if you forget that you said these things. But we'll drop them off in a few hours. But we have, there's so much to say about a mom who loves God and sets the example for the children, because moms are huge influencers. I mean, dads are too. But if I were to poll my kids at school, I teach at a public high school. If I were to ask them, if they live in a single parent home, who do they live with? The majority of them are going to say their mom. If they live with their grandparents, the majority of people are going to say, my grandma drops me off. My grandma takes me to work. I work at the same place my grandma works. It's moms and grandmas that are really driving the family and have such a strong influence that we need to embrace that. And don't begrudge that, but instead recognize it and support the moms and the grandmothers in our life as much as we can, because they're doing so much and we want them to continue doing so much because it's good. We look at the Bible, how important Mary was in the life of Jesus, how important Hannah was in the life of Samuel. You can look at those stories later, but they're mentioned more than the dads are, right? They have a strong influence. So those are just a few things that I've learned from my mom. And I remember she was never mad at me. Mom never got upset at me.
Really?
You never held a grudge against me. When we did things,
Okay.
I never felt, I should say you did get mad at me for doing certain things. Maybe just block those out, but it wasn't like I was a different person then. I never felt like you looked at me like a problem. If I got in trouble, you'd spank me and we'd get on with it. And then life was good after that. I got to eat the next meal and everything with everybody else. But, I feel like I wanted to be good. Like you taught me the value of being respectful, and I never wanted to act out. A fear of the Lord, I think, is what that stems from. But I had a healthy fear of my parents too, where I knew they were going to hold me accountable and discipline me when I did things wrong. I didn't ever feel like I could get away with something. So anyways, that's a lot to say. Melissa, what are some things that you've learned from your mom? You're welcome.
So much. Let's see. Well, Mom mentioned earlier that, we always put church first. Well, we put the things of God first, and a lot of that was shown in church. We would go to every youth event, anything, every conference, every meeting, we would always be there. And so that was always something that I held on to. And now, like Joe was sharing, we do that now in our own home, as we are at every church service and we get involved, we serve. You paid for piano lessons growing up, and I'm still playing piano. You told me that I want to invest in this piano playing because this is something you will do for a long time for the Lord. So other things are fun, yes, and great, but you drove us there, and so that was really important to me. And you just taught me, I think, as well, seeing you stay at home with us and just how much I can't look at you when I say it.
Don't look behind it. There's a bunch of pictures.
Just prioritized the kids. That's what I think made a huge difference in my life. And now it gives me the courage to do that for my kids. I was like, I just want to grow up and be like my mom. And so I'm trying really hard to do that. So, but on a funnier note, Mom would always tell me that you have to make whipped cream the right way. And so you have to buy heavy whipping cream and make it from scratch because that's the right way. And she would always tell me to only buy things on clearance. Make sure you get a good deal. If it's not at least 30% off, then it's not worth it. So, she taught me to be frugal. She taught me to look for good deals. And so, yeah, that's what I learned from my mom.
That's good. I might have to finish because everyone else is crying. There's so much to learn from our moms. And for you listeners out there, if you don't have a godly mother, maybe your mother situation is disconnected, where you don't have a strong connection, or maybe your mom's not in your life anymore, I encourage you to find a good mother figure in your local church, maybe in your extended family, someone that you can look up to and lean on. We all need moms in life. And if it's not your biological mom, take a look around you and ask, who is doing mothering well? Who can I lean on? Who has a heart to mentor me? If you're a young mom, you need to find a mom mentor and find someone who can support you and give you that advice you need that you can trust. If you're not a mom, but you just want someone to love on you, find someone there. There's a lot of, I have a great mom, but there's also a lot of other female figures in my life who are older than me who have been supportive to me in my career, even in college. I can remember people that have just been very, very helpful and loving towards me. And so don't neglect those people in your life. Don't neglect the power of a mother. So thank you so much, Mom and Pastor Joan. Do you want to end with any words of wisdom before we end this off?
Maybe if your mom is no longer on this earth, or you don't have that mother figure in your life. If you look around, you'll find some women who are perhaps all alone. I know we drove down this one road today, and my husband said, "Oh, look at that's a little old grandma, and she's mowing the yard. She shouldn't have to do that." You know, and if you look around, there are older women, maybe in your church or where you work. And if your mom's not there, find a mom just to show love to.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good. Adopt a mom.
Yeah,
Adopt
for
a mom.
sure.
Aw, that's good.
Mom, anything you want to end on?
Just, love your moms and, just like tell them thank you, like Pastor Joan said. That would be something that they would appreciate to hear anytime, and that you appreciate them. And, yeah.
Awesome.
So
Keep giving them hugs,
yeah,
right?
keep praying for your kids.
Yeah.
Keep praying.
Keep bringing your grandkids over. Well, thank you so much, Pastor Joan and Mom, for being with us. This made this episode so much better, having some godly examples, some wisdom to share, to pull from. And we want to encourage you out there, if you, if you're listening to this before Mother's Day or around Mother's Day, find something special to do for your mom on Mother's Day, but don't stop there, right, Mom?
Right. All throughout the year, you need to show appreciation to your mom.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.